Hey Rifters, welcome to the show. Subscribe, rate, review. Uh we got a great show coming up. I'm trying to figure out this ring light. Uh it's kind of crazy. But we got a great show coming up. You've seen her on SNL. She has a movie that I watched very recently called Mother's Little Helpers. I'm not sure when it was filmed, but it was very, very good. And I'm just really excited to talk to her. The great Melanie Hutsell is going to be here right now.
From Hollywood, California, welcome to Reza Riffs with your host, Keith Reza.
All right, excellent. Hi, Rifters. Welcome to the show. The guest is the great Melanie Hutsell. She's here over Zoom, and we had a great, from her husband, set it up. A great guy. It was awesome.
Aw, thank you for saying that. He likes to be complimented in that way and validated for his work.
What's going on?
Fred, go away. Go away. We're recording. We're
My
recording.
phone is somewhere. Hang on, I gotta get
Oh,
out of here.
Oh, okay.
All right.
sorry.
I could edit the phone conversation out. It's fine.
Oh, okay. Okay, good. Uh,
But no, thank you so much for doing this. I'm gonna be honest. I just recently came across your work. I saw this movie called Mother's Little Helpers, and I thought it was fantastic.
oh,
And
wow.
yeah, and
Awesome.
yeah, and because it kind of reminded me of the situation that's going on with my grandmother and her and my mom, it's kind of like that situation. So I thought it really hit home because I was like, holy Lord. And then
Wow. That's
and then
amazing.
yeah, and then I interviewed Siobhan about a year ago, and she said you were the coolest. So
Oh,
I was like, oh my God.
oh,
So like I'm a
that's so
fan.
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow. And Siobhan is like killing it with her movies and writing her own stuff and uh what an inspiration,
Yeah.
really. You know?
Well,
Um
that's how it's going now. Like you don't really need studios. You could even do stuff on your iPhone. You know what I mean?
exactly. You and I could do something right now. No.
Well, we
Um
are. We're doing
yeah, no,
magic.
we're doing it. We're doing it. Yeah, well, wow. The fact that you saw that movie is really really cool because it's um it was definitely a love project, very grassroots. Shot it in 2 weeks.
Whoa. It was
Yeah,
that short? Oh my God.
it was that it was that short. It was really crazy how all of that happened.
Yeah.
um and it was cool too because Kestrin, um she kind of approached me through a friend, and we went and had coffee together, and she was like, hey, I want to pitch this movie to you. Would you mind heading over to my office? It's next door. And I was like, okay. So we go to the office, and she had like this huge poster on the wall with the outline of the movie.
Yeah.
And she went through every single scene, you
Oh,
know, and it was a personal story for her. It was actually about her father-in-law.
yeah.
Was the guy that she changed it to. She changed her father-in-law into a female role because there's not that many female roles, and I thought that was really cool. And I was just like, well, why, if this story is so important to you and so personal to you, I go, this is really going to sound strange. I said, but why wouldn't you honor it with a script? And she said, because when I've written scripts in the past, people have said no. And
Yeah.
she said, so my idea is to just have the outline, and then we're going to improvise. So pretty much almost the entire movie was improvised.
Oh my God, that makes it even more cooler because I thought you helped write part of the script because they gave you a partial writing credit.
Well, that's because the words that I was, most of the words that I said came from my own brain. So it wasn't like I physically sat down and
Oh
wrote
yeah.
the script, but we were all improvising. So that ends up becoming a writing credit, which was fantastic. That was so kind of her to do it that way.
Yeah.
And
Oh my God. That is
yeah,
that's such a cool story.
and I guess just to kind of give people an idea of what this movie is about, it's basically I played sort of like this old Southern hippie, and you find out at the beginning of the story that she has lung cancer, and her four adult kids, um, who didn't have the greatest of relationship with her,
Yeah.
decide to come home and kind of see her through to the end, and it's a comedy. Which,
Yeah.
right, and so it doesn't sound like a comedy, but I think there are some pretty good laughs in there.
I look at it as a dramedy, like
Yeah,
so like that, which is a form of comedy. So I thought it was great. So yeah.
yeah, I think that's the perfect description for it. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. And we had an amazing time doing that. And uh Kester is just one of those people that just, she had an idea and it's like, let's do it. Oh, and the other thing that happened after that meeting of when we had coffee was, oh, when I asked her that question, and she said, oh, people say no to scripts and all of that. She said, and also she goes, my buddy has some filming equipment that he's going to let me borrow, but I have to have it back to him in 3 weeks. And I was like, she goes, so we got to start like in 3 days.
So there
And I
goes
was
the
like,
2 weeks. Yeah.
yeah, 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 yeah. And so we shot we shot it all in um Melania's Melania. What? Milana,
Yeah.
who was another actress in it. Um we shot it in her house in Hollywood, and I think Kester ended up doing the B-roll somewhere in Austin, Texas with her own kids. And anyway, so that was a really cool project to be a part of. And it went to South by Southwest, and that was cool too.
Yeah. I saw it on Amazon Prime. So like
Yeah.
that's like one of those like just by you telling that, that's like a dream come true for filmmakers out there where you don't need the big man. You could do it yourself and it could still get out to people. So I think it's
Yeah,
very inspirational.
it is. It is. And I'll tell you one other quick little thing about Kestrin, um, which is so strange. Uh, when people tell me things like this. So when she was little, um, she and her dad used to watch me on Saturday Night Live.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so uh, it was sort of something that they bonded over. And that's when she, became a fan of mine. And then all those years later, she asks me to play her mother. And so it was just, that was really interesting. And similarly, Annie Mumolo also had a similar story, and about she and her dad used to watch me on Saturday Night Live, and they bonded over my sketches and whatever. And so that's also a huge reason why she asked me to play a very small part in Bridesmaids,
Yeah.
which was also really fun. It was so much
Bridesmaid
fun.
Bridesmaid is one of those like top 30 comedies of all time. It's
Ah,
just so funny.
it's so great. It's so good, and it has so much heart. And um, it was such an honor to be in that movie, and to be uh, asked to be in that group of people is just incredible.
Now, I wanted to ask you a question about Bridesmaids. Did you get sick and tired of playing tennis after that? Because,
That's so funny. Well, the way uh, the way that happened was, did I get sick and tired of it? No, not really, because it was very new for me. And so I remember my agent at the time called me and said, and he was actually nervous, and he goes, we just got a call from Judd Apatow, and He said that if you can prove that you can play tennis, he has a role for you in his movie. And
Oh
I
my
was like,
God.
oh, and he was like, so can you? Can,
He-
can you play tennis? And I was like, yes, I can, which was totally false. Um, and so I got off the phone with him, and I um, I went to Fred, my husband, and I was like, hey, I told him the whole story, and I was like, what am I going to do? And he was like, don't worry, I got you. Because he
yeah.
played tennis. Yeah, because he played tennis in high school. And so I went out and got myself a little tennis outfit. And we went down to the tennis court. And he set up the camera in such a way that it was, it's like movie magic, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Where it was just on me. And he was very gingerly lobbing tennis balls just over the net. And he goes, just every time I do that, knock the hell out of it. And I was like, okay. And that's exactly what I did. And
Oh,
so we sent in that tape, and they were like, yep, you're doing it.
now is your next movie going to be called What Would I Do Without Fred?
That's what it should be called, honestly. That's perfect.
Oh man.
Um,
That
and
that is
also, yeah,
I was gonna say
yes,
that's awesome. Yeah.
yeah, it's great. And here's something else that's crazy. Fred and I are getting up in years, and so now his game, of course, is pickleball. Everybody's playing pickleball. Do
Oh
you
my
play
God.
pickleball?
No, but everybody's playing it. Like
Everybody's
everybody.
doing it,
I'm
and
just thinking, what
everybody's
are they doing?
I know. And everybody's putting pickleball scenes in their movies and television shows. And so, funnily enough, an independent film that I did a supporting role in recently required me to play pickleball. And so I am just like, what is it about me that people want to see me out on the court looking
Yeah.
really bad? Not very well. I actually am pretty athletic, um, but I'm just not good at those particular games.
No, definitely. I
What
get
are you
it.
gonna do?
I think though that that's the best advice ever is if someone calls you and says, "Do you know how to do something?" You automatically have to say yes, regardless if you know how to do it. Because
Yes.
I mean, I've done that too, but I've never gotten roles like that. So like, I think they find out I'm a liar because I don't know how to play tennis. But
Yeah.
I love how you go that extra step.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I'm trying to think, is there anything that I would say no? Maybe I am actually scared of horses.
Yeah.
So like I don't
Why
think
are you scared of horses?
um well, it's kind of a sad story, but when I was very, very young. So I'm originally from Tennessee. I don't know if you can hear that in my voice or
No,
not.
no. Yeah, I can
Probably
hear it.
not. You do. Oh,
No,
you can.
yeah.
Oh, good, good.
I'm Texan, so a lot of Texans they sound like Canadians. You know what I mean? So I get, are you from
Really,
Can? Yeah, I get, are you
Shannon?
from? Yeah, they're like, are you from Canada? I'm like, no, I'm from Texan. They're like, oh, you sound Canadian. I was like, well, thanks.
That's so interesting.
But I'm
Because
Texan.
you don't say I've been working very hard, like Mike Myers.
Yeah.
He's got that Canadian thing. But anyways, no. When I was really young, one of my uh neighbors had a horse, and a little girl got kicked, like kicked and thrown up in the air. And that,
Whoa.
like when you're little and things like that are just forever engraved in your brain. And
No,
yes,
I
that
get
is
it.
why.
Yeah.
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 So, um,
It's kind of like when Christopher Reeves fell off that horse, he became paralyzed. So then you think,
yeah,
okay, I'm scared of horses now because I'll be paralyzed.
right. I'm sorry. That is so dark.
No,
And I
no, but
shouldn't be laughing about that, but I am.
no, but
No, that was very tragic and horrible.
oh,
Um,
definitely. And it was tragic, but I'm saying like that's how
yeah,
the mindset.
that's how
So
the mind works. So you're an actor too. You're
No, I mean,
you're
I guess technically, but I'm a stand-up comedian.
no, I knew you were a stand-up.
Oh, excellent. Great.
You are deep in the world of stand-up, my friend.
Oh,
I mean,
awesome.
yeah. No, I was looking at everybody that you've interviewed and I was like, my Lord. It's
Yeah.
so, I mean, the list just goes on and on. And I was like, wait a minute, Rich Little?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's so cool. That's so cool.
Why, thank you. Yeah, I mean, stand-ups, like I really enjoy podcasting, but unfortunately the person I toured with on stand-up, he passed away. So stand-up's been very hard for me. So podcasting is how I feel like I'm still in the comedy game a little.
Got it.
Yeah,
I'm so sorry to hear that.
yeah,
That's
I mean,
that's really, yeah, yeah.
it happens, but I mean, yeah, but hey, I wanted to ask you because, like I said, I just now became a fan within the year, so I do apologize if I ask you questions you've been asked before. I know it seems a little hacky, but I don't know much about you, so I do
Oh,
apologize.
okay.
So
No, no, no. That's fine.
but I wanted to ask you, like, how was your audition for SNL? Like, I read that you did the Annoyance Theater in Chicago, and then you tried out for Second City. So I wanted to know, like, in your mind, like, what made you want to do the improv comedy?
Okay. I will tell that story. Um,
I'm so sorry, you've told it
no, no,
before.
no, no.
Oh,
You're totally, you know who's such a great example of being interviewed perfectly all every single time? It's Dolly Parton.
oh yeah,
You know what I mean? Like she's so consistent. She tells the story the same every single time. And I just love Dolly Parton so much, as does the whole world. But anyways, yeah. So grew up in Tennessee. I started acting when I was like in high school, um, and went to the University of Tennessee for about 2 years. And you know, just like every other theater program, it was very political. It wasn't the easiest path to like get roles.
yeah.
And so I was getting really frustrated, and I was at the UT library and I found a book about Second City. I love telling this story because it's like I found a book. You know what I mean? Like we didn't have
Like
we
Barnes
didn't
and
have
Noble's book. Yeah,
nothing. We had
yeah,
like a book from the library and it was about Second City, and I was reading it and it was like my heart was pounding and I was like, "Oh, wow, there's something else out there that maybe I could do that." Cuz I wasn't the greatest student, honestly, and I was like, I got to make this work. And so um just to cut out some of the details, I ended up moving to Chicago like the next year. And I trained at Second City,
yeah.
which was amazing and highly recommend still to this day. Um, and then at the end of my time at Second City, I I wasn't asked to move on. Like I wasn't asked to be in the tour company and I wasn't asked to audition for the main stage. I'm not really sure why that is, but I will tell you that I trained with Jon Favreau, which
Oh
is
my God.
yes. And what happened was in our show, so at the end of your fifth level, the whole program takes about a year and a half. And at the end of your fifth level, you get to do a show. And because I was one of two women in the group, which was very typical back then, and I don't know if it still is. Um, I was in like almost every sketch. And I remember Jon Favreau saying, "Why don't we just call it the Melanie Hutsell show?"
Oh wow.
Like he was kind of mad, and I was like, "Well, this wasn't on purpose, and it's not. I mean, I was kind of embarrassed, but I always wondered, was I not asked to move on because I was maybe they thought I was showing off or something. I have no idea, but
Right.
anyways, so one of my teachers at Second City was a guy by the name of Mick Napier, who's very, very well known um, in the improv world, and he's an amazing person. He was also from the South. He's actually from Hazard, Kentucky, and we had the Southern bond. And so anyway, he knew I was really sad, and he was like, well, listen, I'm thinking about starting my own theater, and I was wondering if you might want to join me on that journey. And
Yeah.
I was like, yes. Yes, I
Oh,
would. And so we had a, you know, he found this building that actually used to be a drag bar for many years, and which was perfect. And we gutted it and we built it out, and we had our own space. And he was just like, "This is your playground. We can do whatever we want."
yeah.
And which is just incredible looking back on that and talking about it. I feel so lucky, you know, to have been a part of that. And so we did all these shows and everything, and like crazy shows called Co-ed Prison Sluts and That Darned Antichrist. And, you know,
Yeah.
sorry.
No,
Yeah.
no, this is
Yeah.
fascinating. This is great.
Yeah. Yeah. And um yeah, my first role at the Annoyance, I played Sister Sue, a nun possessed by Satan. Perfect.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's the best type of nun to be possessed.
Yeah, exactly. And so back then, a woman by the name of Faith Soloway was she was the piano player at Second City. So she had this incredible talent of uh, you know, being able to score people as they were improvising. And so she became a part of our process there at the Annoyance Theater,
Yeah.
which we were just creating musicals that sort of made fun of musicals that were very dirty, very blue, and so she was a part of that, the musical process, and she was amazing. And so she has a sister named Joey Soloway, and she brought she wanted to bring Joey onto the scene because Joey had lots of ideas and stuff like that. And so that's when we started the Real Life Brady Bunch
Yeah.
show called the Real Life Brady Bunch, which was we just took episodes of the Brady Bunch and put them on stage,
Yeah.
and
And
which
that character you did a lot on Weekend Update.
yeah, did that
Yeah.
on Weekend Update, and there was another sketch on SNL where we did the battle of the Brady Bunch versus the Partridge Family, the Battle of the Bands,
Yeah.
which you might be too young to even understand. I don't know how old you are.
I'm 36. I know what the Brady Bunch is, but I don't know
Oh, okay.
what the
Okay.
yeah. So
Yeah. So some people understand what I'm talking about and some people won't. That's all right.
uh,
Um, but so anyway, we did that show, and then Joey had, and that really took off and was like kind of an insane success there in
yeah.
Chicago. I mean, I don't know why they did this, but they would sell tickets on Tuesday during the day, and people were freaking lined up around the block
Oh my
to see this
gosh.
show. Yeah, it was like a cult. It was like an instant cult hit
I would
craziness.
I wish that was happening now.
Me too. Me
Like,
too.
I wouldn't have to worry about ticket sales. I'd be like, show's on Friday. There's already a line.
Yeah, right. And so anyway, so we did that show became a big success, and then Joey had this other idea that call can't remember what she wanted to call it originally, but ultimately it was a show called the Miss Vagina Pageant.
Oh,
Uh yeah.
that's a
And
funny show.
so yeah, so that was a fun show, and that was just a show um with all women, and obviously we were making fun of beauty pageants,
Yeah.
and but it definitely had like a political message, you know, um making sort of making fun of the objectification of women. But we just had all these like crazy characters. Kate Flannery was in that show.
Oh, I love
um
Kate. Yeah.
yeah, she was really great. A woman by the name of Becky Thayer, who played Marsha Brady in the Real Life Brady Bunch, was Miss Trinidad and Tobago. Like, and then I was Miss Tennessee.
Yeah.
And so we were just kind of like, you know, just doing these shows, and there were so many other amazing shows going on at the Annoyance at that time. Like this is going to sound so crazy, but at one point I was doing 9 original shows every week.
Oh my God.
Yes. Yes.
Did that just like explode in your brain? Like how did you like comprehend that?
Well, I mean, they were all sort of developed over time and through rehearsal processes. So, um, it was crazy. It was so, but there were a lot of people a part of that theater that all wanted to be directors and they had ideas and like I said from the beginning of this story, Mick was like, do whatever you want. And
Yeah.
so that's what we did. We did a show called Manson the Musical about Charles
Oh,
Manson.
I would totally love to watch that.
You would love to watch that. I played Gypsy.
Oh
Um
my,
yeah.
you know
So,
what, you know what's crazy about Manson is like, because I watch a lot of documentaries on this stuff too. He got like 5,000 letters, like handwritten letters from ladies every single day, like
wow.
to the time of his death. So it makes
Oh
you
well.
think, yeah. So it makes you think. I'm single, right? So I'm always, whenever I go on a first date, I say, "Hey, you weren't one of those ladies that wrote Manson, right?" Because I don't think I could be with you.
How does that go over, Keith?
Not so good. But what
Not so nice. Not
yeah,
so
but what
nice.
I'm saying is it's just so crazy how you don't know how people what they do in their free time. You know what I mean? Like it's like, holy Lord.
Right. No, I know. I know. And when we opened that show, we were all like a little bit scared. Like, is this and it was at midnight, but are we going to get
Makes it
killed?
scarier.
Yeah, honestly, it really was scary. And that show, that was the only time I've ever drank any alcohol before a show. I will and I learned that night to never do that again. But I was so nervous that and we were all kind of like doing shots backstage, but anyways. Um so back to the story. So here we did the show called the Miss Vagina Pageant, and we found out that scouts from Saturday Night Live were coming through town.
Yeah,
And, they had always hit the normal spots like Second City, of course, and Improv Olympic and all the amazing places. And there was so much talent happening at that time. Um, and so, but they decided to come to the annoyance and to see the Miss Vagina pageant,
yeah,
which was so like we our theater was really off the beaten path, you know what I mean? And so it just felt very interesting to be doing a show making fun of women who are competitive with each other to all of a sudden be thrown into this moment of kind of like, oh, we're competitive with we actually are competitive with each other. Is one of us going to get an audition for Saturday Night Live?
yeah,
And but I have to say, every single person in that cast, we were all just in it and very loving towards each other, and um, it was quite a crazy experience. And so what happened after that is that the SNL started sending talent scouts um, every week.
yeah,
And so sometimes we would know that they were in the audience and sometimes we didn't know. So one night we had just done the Real Life Brady Bunch, and this woman walks up to me, and I was literally like sweeping up the theater, like it's so cliche, but this woman walks up to me and she was like, "Hey," and I go, "Hey," and she was like, "Jan Brady is amazing," and I was like, "Cool, thank you so much. That's so nice of you to say that." And she was like, "Listen, you don't know who I am, but my name is Marcy Klein, and um, I'm gonna get you on Saturday Night Live."
whoa,
And come to find out later, like much later, she was new to her job, and she
yeah.
really wasn't supposed to do that. Um,
But she
but
took a chance like that.
yeah, she did.
Like
She
how
really
cool is that?
did. And I mean, I was just like, whoa. I was speechless. I didn't even know what to say to her at that point. I remember like my face turned red and all this stuff and um and then what happened after that was um we got a call from SNL that Lorne Michaels wanted to come and he wanted to bring his friend Quincy Jones, which
Yeah.
is kind of interesting. And uh they wanted to see the Miss Vagina pageant. I was like, oh, all right. And then they asked us to do a midnight show on a Wednesday
Yeah.
because that's all they could fit into their schedule. Like, isn't that is so insane to me? So
But that just shows you how busy they are and if they're willing to stay till midnight to watch you
yeah,
guys. Like,
yeah,
yeah.
exactly. And so we we scheduled a midnight show on a Wednesday, and
The line was
invite
out the block.
no, actually, for the Miss Vagina, I mean, we always had really good audiences, but it wasn't like clockwork, like the Real Life Brady Bunch was.
Yeah.
So we literally invited all of our friends and family and like cousins and uncles and anybody we could get a hold of to pack that house, which it was a 99 seat theater, so it's not that hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so we did the show that night for Lorne Michaels, and he was literally in the front row. And then the next day we found out that he wanted to have lunch with four four women out of out of the cast. I can't remember how many were in the cast, maybe like 8 or 9.
Okay.
And so
You
that
were
was
you were one of those four, right?
I was one
Oh
of the four.
yeah.
I was one of the four. I know. It's really crazy to look back on that at this point because it's been such a long time. Um, but an SNL producer, Mike Shoemaker, was with him, and so after lunch was over, Lauren wanted to take a walk with each of us to just kind of have like a one-on-one conversation.
Yeah.
And before I went on that walk with Lauren, um, Michael Shoemaker talked to me and he was like, listen, all of you are so talented and I know you're going to have a great conversation with Lauren. Just make sure you really tell him, how you feel and talk about your passion for comedy and just let it come from the heart and don't worry about this. You've got this. And so I go for the walk with Lauren, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's such an honor to meet you and to go on this walk with you. And he was like, I know, Melanie. I know. And I was like, yeah. He goes, what do your parents do for a living? And I was like, oh, I go, well, my mom's a beautician and my dad works for Alco Aluminum Company. He's worked there his whole life. And he was like, oh, that's great. That's great. And then I just started in. I was
Yeah.
like, I go, Lauren, I'm just going to tell you right now that I I'm just so excited and um if you so choose me to audition for your show, like I'll give it everything that I have, and if I were to get on the show, like I will work harder than I've ever worked in my whole life. And I mean, I was just like blah 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 blah, and he was like, I know, Melanie, I know. And and so it all kind of went from there. And then they asked 3 of us to audition. And it's so interesting because Kate was not asked.
Yeah.
And I've heard her talk about this before, but I always look back on that. And this is what I tell people that, young kids that sometimes want to talk to me about Saturday Night Live. And maybe let's say they get an audition. I always say to them, if this doesn't come through for you, there will be something else.
Yeah.
And sometimes it means that you are meant for bigger and better things
No, definitely.
because I've seen it happen. I've seen it happen many, many times. And I really, I put I'm really talking about Kate when I say that. Not so much that you would compare like The Office with Saturday Night Live, but that's, I mean, she's like an icon, and also that's consistent work for many, many years. Um,
So I
but
agree. I actually got talked out of auditioning for SNL because the guy I toured with, he was on SNL for like 5 or 6 years, and he was like really mentoring me. And he said, Keith, I know it's your dream to be on SNL, but you're a stand-up. Stand-ups that got on SNL in the 90s, like they don't book like that. And I just think you should try an improv class to see if you like it before you audition. And I did that and I hated the improv class. Like I didn't know how to do it. And so
right.
it turned me off on SNL on auditioning. So in a way, I understand what you're saying,
Mm,
because you
hmm.
got it, even though I really wanted I couldn't adapt to that style of comedy.
Got it. Got it. That's really interesting too, because like much in the way you feel about um improv, like that's how I feel about stand up. Like a lot of people will assume that I did stand up leading up to
Yeah.
Saturday Night Live, or assume that, well, why don't you just do that? Uh, you know what I mean? And it's like, it doesn't work that way,
Yeah.
and I don't know specifically what it is about the brain that some people are stand-up people and some comedy people are improv people, and there are those people that do both, but yeah, yeah, I can definitely understand how for some stand-ups coming on to SNL and having to adapt to learning lines and playing characters and all of that stuff could be very, very challenging.
Yeah.
Um, you know, um, but so went to New York and um auditioned for the show, and that was a really crazy, crazy experience. They had told us that we could bring wigs and costumes and we could do costume changes in between our characters. There's not that, it'll be you and the camera guy. There'll be a few people there, but not that many people there.
Yeah.
And we get there, and like maybe a half hour before the auditions were going to start, we found out that, okay, no costumes, no wigs. Um, just,
On the
just
spot.
on the
Oh,
spot. You're
wow.
just going to do your characters one after the other. And by the way, the whole cast from SNL was at that audition.
Yeah.
Lorne Michaels was there, like everybody was there. And I can't remember who it was that came up and gave us that information, but I remember going to that person and saying, "Listen, I totally get that we're under a time constraint, um, and I can get rid of most of my uh, costumes and wigs." I go, "But I gotta have the Jen Brady wig."
Yeah.
Like I was like, "I just gotta have it." I was like, "Is that okay?" And she was like, "Let me go check." She came back. She goes, "All right, you could do the wig."
Oh my
And so
God.
I was really happy about that.
It would have been
Um,
funny if she said, just don't tell him it's a wig.
yeah, right. That's true. Um, and here's more Brady Bunch story for you, even though you kind of know what it is, which I totally get. So I had asked Phil Hartman to um, to play Mike Brady during my sketch. I had a script for him, and I, had my little sketch that I wanted to do for Jan Brady, and and I was so excited. Like I was like, I'm going to make Phil Hartman a part of my audition. This is
Yeah.
so great.
Because regardless if you get it or not, you got to work with Phil Hartman.
I got to work with Phil Hartman.
Exactly.
Exactly. And so he came up to me before my audition and he said, listen, Melanie, I'm so excited to do this with you. And I'm honored that you asked me. He goes, but I just want to let you know, I'm going to do these lines from off stage. And he said, and the reason I'm doing that is because I want all eyes to be on you.
Yeah.
And I
That's
was,
probably the best thing he could have done for you.
yeah, he said, if I'm up there, they're going to be thinking about me and look, whatever. And I was like, okay, okay. I said, I trust you.
Yeah.
I was like, you've been doing this for a long time. So that's exactly how we did it. I did 5 characters. Um, gosh, it was like an out of body experience,
Yeah.
uh, doing that audition. Um, but it was a lot of fun. And I think, I was so lucky that I'd been working at the Annoyance Theater, and I was performing so much that I felt like that's why, I was able to do it in the way that I was able to do it. And I remember like like when I first started the audition, I heard Chris Farley laugh.
Oh my God, that's an extra
I
bonus.
I I heard him laugh, and I thought, I just made Chris Farley laugh. That is
Yeah.
awesome, you know? And I will never forget that. I will absolutely never forget that. And so yeah, and then it was quite a bit of time before I found out if I had gotten the show or not. And right at that time, we had found out that we were going to be taking the Real Life Brady Bunch to New York, uh, to be like an off Broadway show. There was a
Right.
theater called the Village Gate Theater back then. I don't know if it's still around or not. Anyways, doesn't matter. Um, but yeah, so I knew that I was moving to New York,
Yeah.
regardless of the fact that if I got the show or not, I was going to New York, and that was really exciting.
But see, like the signs, like I'm a big believer in signs. So like
Yeah,
just in your stories, you have so many signs that just put you on the path of what you need to do. So I think that that's just so fascinating.
yeah, yeah. I wish my life was like that more now.
Yeah,
it's
well, yeah.
it's you know, but yeah. So we all, the whole Brady Bunch cast, we all moved to New York. I was living in a loft apartment with, I kid you not, 14 people.
Whoa.
Um, I literally lived in a closet with it was so crazy. Um, and then like I got the call one night that they were gonna put me on the show, and like I started crying, and I couldn't believe it. Um, and but they actually brought me on in November, so I wasn't on in September. I
Yeah.
can't remember exactly why they did that, but they brought on, no, maybe Siobhan did come on in September. I think Siobhan and Ellen Cleghorn came on in September, and then they brought uh, Betty Cahill and myself, and Beth. I go back and forth between Betty and Beth. Um, she was also at the Annoyance Theater with me, and she was one of the ones in the Miss Vagina pageant, so she got the show as well,
Oh, that's
which
cool.
is really cool. And we were
Yeah.
really good friends, so it was nice having her. It's like all the guys, they knew each other so well, as you can imagine. Adam and David Spade and Rob Schneider and Chris Farley and Tim Meadows, and all those guys were so tight.
Yeah.
You've heard that over and over again. It's true.
No, yeah,
They
yeah,
were.
definitely.
They were like family to each other.
Well, it's
And
also because they had that stand up bond too. You know what I mean?
exactly. Oh, 100%. 100%. Yeah.
So uh
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you who in your opinion uh was like the worst host while you were on that.
I feel like I've been asked this question.
Oh my God, I feel so good. Don't
No, don't
ask.
feel bad. Don't feel
Oh,
bad. No, no, no. I didn't mean that. I don't mean that. I have a really hard time. Like,
I try really hard not to ask the same questions,
no,
but
no,
like I
no. I
said,
think that's a very normal question to ask. It's funny because sometimes before I do podcasts, like I'll look at my IMDb just, because you forget things.
Right, right.
Um, and I was actually thinking about that today as I was looking at all of the people that hosted during those 3 years. Um, it's so hard for me. It's so hard for me. I mean, people talk about Chevy Chase in a
Yeah,
negative way sometimes. He wasn't my favorite. Let
right.
me just put it that way. It
That
wasn't that he wasn't good. It's just that he said some snide remarks to me.
that's a fair answer.
Yeah.
I'll accept that because I wrote for this Netflix show and Chevy Chase was one of the guests. He was pretty hard to write for, so
Oh, okay.
I will accept that answer. That's fair.
Okay, good. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then I wanted to respect your time, but I had two more questions. Is it okay if I get asked these real fast?
Sure, sure.
Okay, so you were saying how Phil Hartman helped you out and stuff, and when you got on SNL, because at that time Phil Hartman was probably the biggest cast member on that show. So I wanted to know like how was it like doing scenes with him and stuff because like that's just a legend right there, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. He was was a legend. I mean, even at the time, we all knew that, about him, and because he was so, he was so much older, but he wasn't really that old. Um, but yeah, he just sort of had this wisdom about him, and he was very, uh, I feel like he was very fatherly, and but at the same time, like he loved what he did so much, and he was so down to earth and never ever made you feel like, well, I'm better than you or I've been doing this for a long time. It was that, you know, we're a team and we're all in this together type vibe. I mean, definitely, the Groundlings improv background, I'm sure fed into that. But no, Phil was so kind to me and I had such a cool little like friendship with him, and he would give me advice sometimes, and he just really kind of helped me along the way. And but it's interesting too because you talk about Phil Hartman, but also Dana Carvey was on at that time and Kevin Nealon.
Yeah.
And so I had watched those guys when I was in college. Okay.
Yeah.
And then to all of a sudden be working with them after being a little bit younger and like having that dream, but thinking like, but that's completely unattainable. Like I'm from Tennessee, like that's never gonna happen, you know. Um, but but it can happen for people in Tennessee.
Yeah.
But um, yeah, it was an interesting time to be at SNL with sort of like the two camps of like the older people and then the younger guys who were really, just making their way and working so hard, and then I was just kind of in there somewhere trying to figure it all out.
Yeah. But like
Um,
that's the spot to be though because once you're on SNL, you know, during SNL it might be difficult, but after SNL, you will always have that on your name. So everyone will know that. You know what I mean?
I do know what you mean. I do know what you mean, and I feel very lucky and to have been a part of something that continues to be so huge and amazing and just I mean, it's not the same for everybody, but there's so many great people that come out like Kristen Wiig and well, so many great women too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I'm talking a lot about men today,
No, we like the
but
ladies. Sarah
we love the
Silverman.
ladies. Sarah
Yeah.
Silverman, I was on with her, and uh, Tina Fey, and Molly Shannon, and
Wally Shannon's the sweetest. Oh my God.
Sherry O'Terry, and just I could go on and on. Like it's just incredible.
Yeah.
how much talent they have right now. Like it just how does that work? It just continues to be so good.
Yeah.
And they got the 50-year anniversary coming up
Are you
too.
excited for that?
I'm excited and nervous,
Yeah.
honestly. it's it's um it's a great thing to be, a part of, but it's yeah, it's kind of anxiety provoking. I'm not gonna
No.
lie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, Molly Shannon, I mean, she's the sweetest person. Right when Norm died, she found me on Instagram and she sent me a voice text message and she said, "Hey, I just want you to know I'm sorry for your loss of Norm. He loved you a lot. This is Molly Shannon."
Oh,
And I was like,
that's gonna
"Oh,
like make me cry.
yeah."
That
I
is
was
so
like,
sweet. That's
because
so sweet.
I didn't know her at all. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And I was just like, "Oh my God." Like, so that just made me cry. Like, that's the best
Yeah.
voicemail I've ever had.
No, I think that's beautiful. And I think that that is so symbolic of who Molly Shannon is. I think she's such a good salt of the earth person. And and in fact, you know, I think it's hard to find, in my opinion, it's hard to find somebody in comedy. That's why your earlier question was so hard,
Yeah.
like who was not good,
Yeah.
And I'm not saying Chevy Chase is not a good person. I don't know why he is the way he is. Um, but
Some people are just difficult. It doesn't make them a bad person or not. Just like
that there you go.
that's just their work ethic.
That's just their work ethic.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But I was just gonna say, like, I just feel like comedy people are good people.
Yeah.
Not that
Like,
drama people aren't.
yeah, a lot of people say Steven Seagal was the worst host ever.
Oh,
And
wow.
a lot of people say that. And they say it because he's probably just not even a good dude. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So
All
like
right.
that's like one of those things where it's like, "Oh, okay, cool."
Yeah.
But I could respect if someone's difficult because that doesn't make a person bad or good. It's just
Right. They're
I mean,
just difficult.
I'm difficult. I mean, I harassed you for 6 months to do this.
No, that was really nice of you. And um, wow, I feel like I'm in such good company. So many great people that you've interviewed, and a lot of great women too. Stephanie Weir,
Oh, I love
um,
her. She was the best.
and Leanne Morgan, who I'm not personal friends with, but we probably could be friends because she's from Knoxville and I'm from Knoxville, and that's
I'll get her to send you a voice message.
okay. Okay.
Uh, um, so my last question is, where can the folks at home follow and support you?
Okay, so I am on Instagram. And the only reason that I made my handle the real Melanie Hutsell is because my daughter Carly was like, "Mom, you got to make yourself the real Melanie Hutsell." And I'm like,
Right.
"Okay, can you do that for me?" And so, oh Lord, that makes me sound ancient. So yeah, so Instagram, I'm on Facebook as well, and yeah, just I don't really have anything coming out anytime soon. It's been kind of a weird time in our business, which, you know, with the
Yeah.
strikes and all the things.
Yeah.
Um, but I'm still getting after it and doing my self-tape auditions. you
That's what
know,
you gotta do. Take it one
it's
day at a time
take
because,
it.
success is right around the corner. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
well, thank you for saying that.
Yeah.
It's so lovely to meet you and talk to you. And gosh, I realized like you asked me just a few questions. Like I gave really long answers. But
Those are the best answers though,
okay.
because I love part of the fascinating thing about interviewing people is because you've taught me how to be a better comic. Just, and everyone I've ever interviewed teaches me something. So that's why
Ah,
it's like school. It's very fascinating and it's like, okay, I could use this advice in this situation, that advice in that situation. Like, I think it's great. So thank you so much.
yeah, yeah, you're welcome. And just in the few podcasts that I listen to, I love your spirit And I love how much passion you have for comedy. Like it's so nice to meet someone that cares about it and loves it so much. And I can't remember who you were interviewing, but you were talking about, that no matter how long you've done stand up or whatever it is that you do, like it's still it never stops being about the climb. And
Yeah.
there's always a chance to get better at it and be better at it. And then you were like Jerry Seinfeld, like can he still get better? I mean, I'm sort of paraphrasing,
No,
but
no, but you're absolutely right. Yeah.
yeah, 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 yeah. And last little tiny story I'll tell you is that my daughter and I, she lives up in New York. She's doing the whole improv thing too, and which terrifies me. But I'm like, do you really want to do this? But anyway, we went out to see some stand up, and she was kind of getting restless and like, oh, I don't like these guys. They're so rude. It was a lot of like audience interaction. Kind of thing. Uh and we were literally like minutes away from leaving.
Right.
Like it was just gross humor, right? Some people love that. We weren't about it that night. And I was like, all right, we're gonna go. We're gonna go. The host comes out and he says, all right, we got a surprise for you. Every once in a while, somebody stops by. Please put your hands together. Give a warm round of applause for Jerry Seinfeld.
Oh
Speaking,
my God. Oh,
I know it was so crazy, and Carly was like out of her mind excited. And I don't know. I was watching him, and it's like, how could this guy have gotten better?
yeah.
But he's even better like tonight than I've ever seen him. And like it was just so inspirational to see this person who, whatever. It was just like, whoa. So I think that's cool. I think that's really cool that you said that, and I really took that in.
Oh, well, I thank you
Yeah.
for so much for saying yes. It was a dream come true, and I've learned a lot from you, and you are now one of my heroes, and I'm a big fan, even though I just came upon you within the last year. I think you're awesome. So thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. Thanks
All
for
right.
having me.
Of
Okay.
course. Air 5, and we'll see you next time.
Woohoo. All right.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye,
Take care.
Melanie. All
See ya.
right. All right, guys. That was the interview. Subscribe, rate, review, and we'll see you guys next week on Reza Riffs.